A 6-week consultation starts today, inviting views on not whether to end gay conversion therapy, but what to end specifically and how to go about ending it. Coercive attempts in particular to change someone's sexuality or gender identity. Let's talk to Malcolm Clark, who's director of the LGB Alliance, who joins us now. Good morning to you, Malcolm.
Hi there, Julia.
Thank you very much indeed for joining us. There's already been quite a big row about this in relation to what should actually be banned, in particular issues over whether or not particular religious settings, certain kinds of therapy would be banned. But the key thing here is preventing and banning forceful, physical, coercive therapy, particularly either for children or for adults.
Sure. I mean, obviously the government's heart is in the right place. Everybody wants to stop any forcible bullying attempt to change people's sexual orientation. The dilemma is that in this country, because we're such a progressive country on gay rights, there's almost none of that happens. And most of the things that have been cited in favour of this sort of legislation are already covered by law. So, for example, if you were bullied and beaten and given drugs and all the things that people talk about, or electrocuted, the sorts of things that people normally associate with the idea of conversion therapy, well, they're all against the law already. And so I think the government has, unfortunately, extended the range of this bill to include lots of things that are undefined or ill-defined. I mean, we fundamentally disagree with putting sexual orientation and gender identity in one bill because they're completely different things.
Yeah, well, I want to come on to that side of things, which I know is a particular issue for the LGBT Alliance. But I say that we heard a lot about gay conversion therapy in the States, deeply religious sort of and actually a lot of pressure on a lot of young people. It may not involve violence or bullying or threats, but people feeling under pressure that what they are, their sexuality, is wrong and something they need to change. But I know that the Pink Paper has already, gay rights newspaper, gay newspaper, has talked about concern that the consultation, what they're looking at right now, wouldn't necessarily look at banning prayer, people undergoing non-coercive religious therapy. But I suppose if someone does, for whatever reason, believe that their sexuality is wrong, that they would have a right to try and seek help to change it, if that was what they thought. I mean, it would be, for me, very sad that someone would think that, but do we need to allow that loophole?
Well, of course it would be sad if someone felt they needed to change their sexual orientation, and it's probably unfortunate for them that there's no evidence that you can change your sexual orientation. So they would be wasting a lot of time. However, it seems to us that it's a slippery path when you start to interfere with religion. I'm not religious at all, but once you start saying that prayers are homophobic, where do you stop? Do you say that holy texts are homophobic?
Yeah.
Are we going to go into mosques and churches and stop the priest and say, wait a minute, you can't quote Leviticus, it's homophobic? So I think it's been very badly thought through.
Okay, now let's talk about, I know, a particular reason, obviously, why your organisation was set up to represent the lesbian, gay and bisexual rights in the wake of, them being basically brought into the LGBT banner under trans rights. There is a concern that when we're looking at trans therapy and youngsters, particularly children, going to places like the Tavistock Clinic, leading gender reassignment clinic, that if we had a ban on gay conversion therapy, and trans was also included in this, that it would basically become, some people think in interpretation, that it would be against the law to effectively try and talk a child out, or trying to talk to a child, give therapy to a child who's thinking that they were trans, and to perhaps discuss them, maybe they're not trans and maybe they are gay, or maybe something else is going on, and that could become against the law. That's a concern for your group, isn't it?
Absolutely. I mean, the truth is that gay conversion therapy, as we used to think of it, is vanishingly rare in this country. What's not vanishingly rare is the huge numbers of girls in particular, but young people who are suddenly convinced that they are trans. And it seems to us that it should not be described as conversion therapy when a 4-year-old or a 6-year-old or an 8-year-old says to a therapist, I think I'm born in the wrong body and I'm the other sex, the therapist should be able gently to explore why they've come to that conclusion. What this bill is about, and what a lot of LGBT activists are pushing for, is for therapists only to be able to affirm the idea that that child is born in the wrong body. And that seems to us really dangerous. There's already a 4,000% increase in the number of girls identifying as or being referred to gender identity clinics. That, we think, will soar if you criminalise normal, everyday, exploratory therapy.
Yeah, absolutely. Malcolm Clark, Director of the LGB Alliance, thank you very much indeed for joining us.